That's a big fish. I need you. I really need you. Come here. You are big. You are big, big, big. Just wish you guys could see this fight. That's a big, big fish. Big fish. Big, 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 big. Oh, that was such a great day up in Wisconsin. Chase and Smalley's had to wear my Smalley shirt because I realized I did not catch a single smallmouth bass all year long. On the year, I'm supposed to be chasing a 20. Didn't catch a single Smalley. I did catch a 20 largemouth down at Caddo, but hey, it is what it is. Welcome everybody to the Everything Kayak Fishing podcast presented by American Legacy Fishing, hosted by yours truly, JT Hickman of the Fishing with Gramps YouTube channel. That's right. We're back. We're going to start doing the podcast again. It's been a long, long time since we've filmed, since we've recorded and done a live for the Everything Kayak Fishing podcast because, hey, old Gramps had to go get some old Roto-Rooter in the heart this summer and put a kibosh to my whole season. But fear not, everything's going good. The triple bypass is good. The replacement valves are good. We're healing up. Thumbs up from the docs at my last checkups. Now we have left to deal with is a double hernia surgery, hopefully in November, December, followed by a knee replacement sometime probably in January or February. And then we'll be ready to start fishing again out in spring. But that doesn't mean that old Gramps can't get on the old interwebs and have some guests again. And I've got a great one lined up tonight. And then I've got a new Bassmaster AOI going to be joining us here in another week or two. Now, people know that Gramps has been fishing. I say Gramps like I'm third person. I've been kayak fishing for a while. I mean, I got my first kayak in 2012 when I couldn't get my little low boat into a spot, that was too skinny on the Navy base that I work on. And then once I got out there and running around a little bit and discovered that, we can take a milk crate and throw it on the back of one of these Walmart specials, sit-in kayaks. About a year, 2 years, it's probably 2 years later, 2014, I found an actual fishing kayak. Had 2 rod holders, a spot to put your bucket or crate. And then I ended up putting the boys in the Walmart specials because, Gramps needed a little more support for the largeness that he was. But that being said, I thought, 11, 12, 13 years, I thought I'd been kayak fishing for a while. Well, tonight we're going to be joined by a special guest, one of the pioneers of kayak fishing, kayak bass fishing. And I'm not even going to waste any more time. Let's just bring on Marty Hughes, KayakJak, one of the guys who's been doing this as longer than most. Marty, how you doing, brother?
Great, man. Yeah, the sealskin kayak is still in the garage.
Yeah, it's funny when you get arguing with people what a kayak is. Yeah. And of course, that's like arguing forward-facing sonar. It's, people understand, that kayaks were like, Eric Jackson, like little things that we sat in that were covered and, but there's not a lot of folks that have been doing this as long as you. Now, the audience for the Everything Kayak Fishing podcast generally are pretty newer to kayak fishing. So take us back in history, Marty. Tell us where KayakJak came from, how you got started and how you got into this. And, you're one of the guys that's been around for a long time.
Thanks, man. I was just looking around here, maybe a picture I could find. But I do kind of have one, but this is kind of what it was about for me right there.
Yep.
That just my kids, getting out in the outdoors and enjoying life,
Yep.
A lot of people today, might get into kayak fishing for a different reason than I did,
Yep.
And just like you, I suffered some health issues in my late 30s, and it was all knees, and
yeah. Oh, yeah.
10 knee surgeries later, 7 on one and 3 on the other, I'm like, running is not an option anymore.
No.
And so I started cycling, and that wasn't doing it. And I was a school teacher, and I lived my whole life on a gym floor.
Okay.
That kind of tells you what I did in teaching.
Yep.
And it was beating the snot out of me, man. So I had to figure out something. And the doctor actually told me, he says, you're going to have double knee replacement within the next 5-10 years.
Yep.
Well, I'm 66 now, and I have not had a knee replacement.
That is awesome.
And a lot of that is due to the fact that I took up kayaking.
Yep.
And I bought a kayak on eBay in like 1997. I don't have any pictures because we didn't really get into pictures back then,
Yeah, understood. Yeah, 100%.
You had the Walmart disposable camera that clear case on and stuff. But it was a Old Town Sea Otter, I believe. Kayak.
Oh,
It was
wow.
like 8 foot long with a hole in it that your legs would fall asleep in it. And so I went out and started paddling, and I thought that would be the exercise that would kind of take off the excess weight that I had attributed to my sedentary lifestyle from not being able to walk or run. And well, I am going to tell you that the kayak did not take the weight off. It actually made my shoulders like get bigger, my arms, my t-shirts got tight, But what did it was P90X. I did that, and I lost 59 pounds doing that.
Dude,
And
I did P90X when that first came
Yep.
out. That was wonderful.
Yeah, and I actually was in the national finals for top 4 in the country. Won a few $1,000. That's how I started KayakJak's Outfitters. Long story short, and anyway, I started kayaking, and then there was a lake nearby me. It's called Rock Creek. It's kind of heaven on earth. That's kind of where kayak fishing started in the Midwest, by the way. I mean, because nobody else was doing it. And I'll tell you why here in a minute, how I know that. But I go out and I take my fishing rod with me one time because I saw some fish in the clear water down below me. And as I went over them, they didn't move. They were like, hey, they just, I was like, this is pretty cool. And I had a boat at the time. And I'm like, so I take my rod out there, and I'm wearing a life jacket, by the way. I wore it from the beginning. I wear it today. People, wear your PFD at all times.
Yep.
I'm a rabbit trail here. I just saw a guy 2 weeks ago in a boat with 2 others. The motor hit a rock while they were going after a snag, and the guy was ejected from his boat. No life jacket. And they got him in. But what if he's by himself? So there's my rabbit trail. So wear your life jacket, please. And then I go out and I cast a little jig, and I get this tug, and it's a bluegill. And I'm like, this isn't, and it actually moved my kayak. So I'm like, this is incredible. I had not known anybody else kayak fish. I mean, obviously from school, I knew that the Eskimos had back in hunting with them, but I had no idea. And then the other thing I only knew was that they were made for the whitewater rivers. And I got to go back a little bit here. When I purchased that kayak, I also purchased a nose plug and a book off of eBay on how to do an Eskimo roll. I am not kidding you.
Wow.
Because that's how paranoid I was about getting into kayak to begin with.
Right.
And it was a little chippy, but I caught that bluegill and I was hooked. And so I started going out, bringing more lures with me and stuff, and started catching bass and bluegill, and crappie. And then I started getting on the internet, and I found out I'm not the only guy doing this. And I found guys like Dennis Spike, Chad Hoover, wasn't in the Navy yet, and Jim Salmons out of Southern California. Dennis was from Northern California. Slow Ride Dean, I think it's Dean Thomas from Texas. These guys were out there kayak fishing. We were in our own little silos doing this, not knowing that anybody else was even doing this. I just can't believe that. It wasn't like I saw JT kayaking on a YouTube video. Man, I want to do that. No, it wasn't like that. It was like you went out and you did it. And guys, I made so many mistakes and learned from stuff, from my experiences, maybe to hopefully help others. But that's kind of how it started. And I would just go paddle around the outside of the perimeter of lakes to get my exercise, and I go fishing. But then when I found those guys, I reached out to all of them, and I discovered there was a lot more to this than I thought. And they were actually developing their craft at the same time, you know. So um, for about 6 years, I never saw another kayak on the water. And there's actually the big article behind me there, right there, is
Yep.
a full page in the Omaha World Herald about kayak fishing, and it's called Stealth Fishing, and that is dated, I think 2000. That was in 2005.
Wow.
But there's actually another magazine down here in this little, I call it the Bass Cave down here.
Yep.
There's no Nebraska Land Magazine did an article in 2004. I want to go back on that now. The reason why I know there was nobody else is because Eric Fowler, who still works for Nebraska Land Magazine, he called just about every superintendent in the state for the parks, and he was looking for a kayak angler in 2004, and that he was not finding anybody. I don't know if there may have been an article in some major publication that exposed a little bit of it, you know, back then, because guys like Jeff Little were doing it too, and
Oh yeah.
you know there's other guys around, but there was no social media to spread it. You know, it was you know the forums. We had forums back
Back in
then.
the day, yeah.
Yeah,
Bulletin
and
boards and then forums, yeah.
yeah, and so he reached out and he called every superintendent, and all of them, and I haven't seen anything. And then he called the one down at Rock Creek. Hal Walker was his name, and Hal said, "Yes, there is a lunatic down here that's in his kayak, and he's out there catching fish in it." And Eric hit the jackpot there. He got my number, called me up, came out, I think like a week later, and
Wow.
he did a story on it, and he took pictures and stuff. There's still some of those pictures today. And he did a spread in Nebraska Land Magazine on it, which people read, and then of course the rest of the media got a hold of it, radio stations, TV, and all that. So I had guys coming out filming. I did radio shows and so forth. But see, people were still mystified by the stability of a kayak
Yep.
back then. Like, am I going to tip over and drown? I had the same issue when I first got into it. I thought, am I going to get stuck in this thing upside down in the water? So that's why I had my nose plug and how to do an Eskimo roll.
Oh yeah.
You know, so from there it spread like wildfire. And in 2005, we started KayakJak's Outfitters. And by the way, I did not come up with the name KayakJak. It was my superintendent, Dallas,
Okay.
who used to call me Kayak in the hallways. People made fun of me, man, JT. They made fun of me for kayak fishing. And I had them on my old Trooper, which I still have. America's first kayak hauler. I guarantee it. It's going to be in a
Yeah.
museum someday. We still have it. Anyway, he would make fun of me. People make fun of me fishing in a kayak, and my kayaks were on top of it all the time, 24/7, because I just take off and go. And one day I was going down the hall, and he just yelled out, "Hey, Kayak Jack," because my real name is Jack. It's not Marty. And he knew that nobody else did, but so that's where the Kayak Jack name came from.
There we
So when
go.
I started my business, I went in his office and said, "Hey, Dallas, I'm going to start this Kayak Jack's Outfitters, and thanks for that name, man." He goes, "Well, I just want you to know one thing, that any money you make, I get a cut from coming up with that name." So, so
Of course.
anyway, that's how it started. And then it's just, you know, there's a lot of stories that, you know, a lot of rabbit trails off of that as well, that we could go on for hours talking about.
No, I was
But
gonna say you even had some other famous anglers come out of your guide service there too, didn't you?
oh yeah, there's Christine Fisher. Well, yeah, I mean, she showed up and started fishing, and then we got her a kayak. She actually had her first major fishing kayak was my old Jackson Cuda that she
Okay.
got, and then she also worked for us as a
Yep.
guide. You know, so and then a lot of, like, you know, you take some of the like Brady Storrs, who won one of the Hobie series. He fished some of our youth events, you know, before he graduated from high school. And there's just so many people, yeah, that have come through guided, you know, maybe. But you know, I've just been very blessed to be on this journey. And you know, my major thing in life was education,
Yep.
and I still teach today. I still sub and teach. I just care a lot about kids because it's a personal story, but I just want to help kids get off on the right track, you know. And I got to tell you guys something. uh, I'm not gonna say the guy's name, but I'm gonna read you this message, guys, because this is what it's all about. And we don't realize the influence we have on kids. Kids could, I was one of those kids. I mean, you can get caught up in a different world than what we're supposed to be doing as a kid. You can be influenced different ways. And it was all around us as kids. The drugs, the alcohol, the stuff that's going to not help you in life. And, but I want to tell you that this message today that Keith Stevenson got, and Keith runs the Yak Off Awards. He works for Kayak
Yep.
magazine. I also do as well, doing podcasts for them and writing.
Yep.
But here's a message that guys, my main thing, JT, is you guys that are listening. I don't know how many people are on here or how many will hear this, but man, take a kid fishing. Just take them out and take them fishing. They don't need medication. They just need fishing. You stare at a bobber or a lure for a while. That's the best medication in the world. And you get a tug.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's good stuff. And teach them the right way, of course. But get this. Here's the message. And I'm not going to say the kid's name, but I just want to say that this kid reached out and he said, I'm a 15-year-old kayak angler from Mississippi. I'm a big fan of the Yak Off series, and I'm curious if y'all would consider doing a youth division to help highlight the youth in kayak fishing. That's so cool.
Yep.
That is so cool. And I can't disclose what's going to happen in the next one, but I can tell you this, that we're going to help those youth somehow.
Yep.
And I could tell you a lot of stories about kids, like as a high school principal, I remember, building relationships with kids, just taking them out fishing and finding out, peel the onion a little bit and find out what's going on. And then they tell you what's going on in their lives. You're like, hey man, we can fix that. But what we can't fix is what you're doing at school. The stuff that we can fix that, but you know what I mean? But it's like, we can't do the things they were doing, and so we turn them around and when I see a kid going to the Army and live a disciplined life after living a pretty tough life in the school years, that's all the difference in the world. So there's a lot to this, JT, other than just the kayak fishing.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I started this channel back during COVID, thinking that I was going to be like a grandfather figure to another generation of kids and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it turns out the majority of my audience are people our age who back then were either looking to take their kids fishing or their grandkids fishing. Yeah. They hadn't been forever. And so they, and I started based off of a lady that worked for a friend of mine at a restaurant. She was a single mom. She remembered going fishing with her dad and loved it. Didn't remember anything about it other than going fishing, and had a little boy that she wanted to take out fishing during COVID. And so I just started making basic from the bank, Zebco 33, worm, bobber, sinker, and go catch fish. And then I just kept going from there. And then most of the, before I even got into filming more kayak stuff as a way to fish, I had my boys out in boats and in kayaks and, even bank fishing then too. But it's funny you say that, because it's like one of our friends, Cairo, was, called out for her volunteerism and, was featured in an article and was like this area's volunteer of the year. And, she got into kayak fishing, after running into a bunch of us, comes to the KBFNC, just, hang out and have fun, and did the knucklehead stuff. But, and like Chad always says, each one reach one, and we all kind of do that in our own way. But it always starts out with the kids. And it's like, I got to share. I got to share an experience with my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, a few years ago when she caught her first bluegill. And, I got to do that with her younger sister this year. And that'll be a video coming up, because I've still got stuff that I filmed, and obviously I had to quit, going doing all the big fun stuff that we normally do. But I still get out and just fish quite a bit, up until I had to until I had to take a forced break and heal. But
Right.
yeah, I'm with you because it's like my channel didn't start focused on kayak, fishing. It was just fishing, and there's going to be
Mhm,
a lot of that again next year. Of course, I'm
mhm,
never going to give up my kayaks as long as I can take them
mhm,
out and run. But my grandbabes are getting a little older. We're going to spend a little more time in the boat next year, and then
mhm.
when they get a little bigger, maybe we'll take them out for some skinny water smallies.
There you
But
go.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah.
It's all about teaching this next generation about the outdoors,
Mhm,
whether it's fishing, camping, just being out there because that's how we grew up.
mhm.
And it's just there's no better medicine.
Yeah, look at it. Look at it. Here's one. I mean, you see it. That's my son and my other son,
Oh
and
yeah,
this is actually in the cover of the Nebraska Boating Guide back in
that's awesome.
2000, I don't know, a long time ago, but
Yeah, I dig up and I go back and
yeah.
if I go to my channel and I go back to hit that oldest videos button,
Mm,
there's my then he was like a fresh 18-year-old getting ready to go to Afghanistan, fishing for the last time and then fishing when he comes back from Afghanistan and then his brothers, when they were 12, 13. It's like I was messing with Chad because uh, I sent Austin a picture that Chad had taken of him and put in his book. And then I was like, look, you were about the same age as my son, who
mhm.
is your age, and
Yeah,
you were both in the little plastic boats back about the same time.
yeah.
But I mean, in today's modern technology, this and that, some of the guys are missing out on the fact that just being a little plastic boat with a milk crate
Mhm,
and a rod and
mhm.
having a 5-pounder drag you all over the place
Yeah,
until you wear
yeah,
it out and you can finally pull it into the boat. And I really miss those days.
yeah. And
And
here's
I
a
told my brother I'm going to build another basic paddle yak this year just for getting back out in the creeks and keeping it,
yeah.
just to have fun and keep it simple.
And there's a misconception out there that I know if you look at a YouTube channel or ads, and I don't want to downplay any companies or anything here, but guys, all you need is your kayak, a PFD, and a paddle.
That's it.
But I would
Yep.
recommend this though. Take a pair of pliers, your rod, a small box of lures, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And if you want to, if you now, if you're gonna fish with the big boys out there and on the elite level, yeah, you probably could use some of that stuff. But there are guys that can compete at that level without it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
and like Drew Gregory is one. I mean, there's no sonar on his craft,
Yeah.
and he paddles a lot now. He's got a motor now, but back in the day, I cherish those days that we all met at a ramp, and then 50 guys took off in their paddles and
Yep.
went various locations, and fished. And I really do miss that. But at the same time, we are going to keep moving forward with technology. I mean, if you've watched the yak offs at all, this last week was the most incredible two kayaks that I've ever seen.
Yep. And
Um,
it's going
you
to keep
know,
getting bigger,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you can program a kayak with its motor and get you from point A to point B and never touch anything,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
or
But
steer
I
a
keep
kayak
telling
with.
myself I'm going to go and start a series here in Indiana
Uh-huh.
that's just like you said, no electronics, no
Mhm.
motors. Get
Yeah.
back to the simple, and I know still guys that would still come out even if I started and did one a year. There's
Yeah.
guys that would still come and do that. Now, my brother with a bad wing, he would need he needs the
Yeah.
pedal,
Yeah.
but I mean, still, just kind of that old school, getting back to it.
Right. And
Because yeah, like you said, if you're going to go fish the high end stuff, it's what it takes
mhm.
these days. But
I don't
I
want to downplay any companies, like I said. I mean, I think it's
oh
great, all
yeah,
these products we have. I mean, I'm all for it. At the same time, though, if you have a budget or if you just want the simplicity of just going out and enjoying the outdoors, you don't need a lot of stuff. And
oh
and
yeah,
or else if maybe you're a guy that has all that stuff, make sure you get yourself a kayak where you can just go out and just enjoy it.
yeah.
And JT, we do have an event here in Nebraska called the Doggy Paddle.
There you
And
go.
what we do is it's paddle only, no motors, no sonar, and people bring a bag of dog food, cat food, or treats, and it goes to the Hearts United. And then this year we gave away a kayak. We gave away some other prizes, but this is the cool part. The kayak, you had to go out and find a bobber with a name on it or with a number on it. And then you put the bobber in a box and we drew the bobber out. Whoever's number got drawn, that's who won the kayak.
Oh, wow.
So it
There
was
you
skin the
go.
game, you know what I mean? And then the
Yep.
paddle was a bending branches paddle. And the way you won that was you threw a decorated stick out in the water, and we had a dog go out, swim out, and grab a stick, and whoever stick he grabbed, they won the paddle. So
That's
just
awesome.
make it fun like that, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and that's what it's all about. So that's just my 2 cents worth on the simplicity of kayak fishing.
Now, you said something earlier about writing stuff. I mean, I know
Mhm.
you've kind of been in that for some time, writing for some all kinds of different publications. Talk a little bit about how you got into that and who all you kind of cover, because I know you're a busy dude.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no time for sleep. Almost it seems. I'm busier now before I was retired. But thanks for bringing that up, JT. Yeah, actually, I've been writing my entire educational career and beyond that. A lot of it started. Well, first of all, I got to give credit to one of my English teachers, Mrs. Barnes, who used to slap me with a yardstick and get me back on track in the front row of the classroom because I thought I was a class clown back then, and I was far from it. But she would get me going in the right direction, and she taught me a lot about writing. And of course, in college, I learned a lot more.
Yep.
But what I did was when I first started coaching, I was 22 years old, coaching and teaching. I was a head football coach, head basketball, head track at age 22, and I had to write my own articles a lot of times.
Oh, wow.
On recaps, like recaps of what
Hmm.
happened, and so I got a little bit of training, I guess, without knowing it, through experience that way, and then fast forward a few years, the first kayak fishing publications that came out, since there wasn't very many of us, every once in a while they'd reach out to me and say, hey, can you write an article on this? And so they were out there roaming, or out there somewhere. But and then that's fast forward now to the most recent, where I have had more time, because in education I was working day and night in education.
Yeah.
And but I did write a newsletter every week for my teachers, stuff like that, and just try to build the culture that way. So I had a lot
Right.
of experience. But then um, and then I had the weird thing there. You guys have heard of Jason Seelock. He's with Wired to Fish, or he was. He
Yep.
was like the CFO of Wired to Fish, And I'm in school one day, my like at the beginning of the year, and I'm at Auburn here at school, and I'm the principal. And walking down the hall, and there's this kid, Noah, and he's putting up Wired to Fish decals in his locker, like sticking them on the door. And I'm like, hey man, where'd you get those at? I said, those are pretty cool stickers. He goes, oh, from my uncle. I go, who's your uncle? Well, Jason Seelock. I go, are you kidding me? And so he goes, yeah, my grandma lives right down the street from you, because he knew where I lived.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jason Seelock's mom lived 2 blocks from me. And so then I find, we connect on Facebook and so forth. And I go down to Kentucky Lake for the KBF National
Yep.
one year. And it's about 31 degrees at the ramp. And I'm sleeping in my truck, as we all have done at one time or another. Right.
We were literally talking about that derb this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talking about layering up.
Yeah. And I'm at this ramp and I'm by myself. There's nobody else there. And I'm going, and this area is great. I'm just gonna tear it up. And then I put it on Facebook, a little picture of what it was like, and then a little caption. Well, in the morning, 30 other guys show up at that ramp. So it was a very popular area, and I didn't do very well. But anyway, long story short, Jason reaches out to me on Facebook. He says, hey man, stay at our place tonight. So I go to his place and I stay at his place, and before I go home. And the next morning, he gave me this giant box of lures to take home with me and give to the
Wow.
kids here. And so that's how that started. Then he came to visit, and he saw some of my stuff on Facebook that I wrote a lot of recaps, and fishing.
Yep.
And
Yep.
he says, hey, how would you like to write for us? I said, sure, I'll see what I can do. And so I started writing for Wired to Fish and have several articles with them. Well, then it kind of went from there, and other publications saw that. And then the next thing was, Bassmaster does the top baits with the elites. And I
Yep.
thought, why couldn't we do that with the kayak anglers? They're elites too,
Yep.
at their level. And so when I reached out to them, they said, "Yeah, you want to do it?" So I said, "Sure, I'll do it." So I volunteered to do it, and the next thing I know, I'm on the staff, getting paid to
There you
write. And
go.
the money's not the big thing. It was giving anglers exposure
Yep.
for their efforts out there. And a lot of these companies that are backing these anglers, who else is going to see that except for their own personal recaps on social media? Well,
Yep.
this gave them a huge platform.
Oh yeah.
And from that, Z-Man reaches out to me through, of course, Drew Gregory. They see that. And so then they work with it. It was just a chain reaction. And then now I run my own platform at KayakJak's Fishing Intel, which is on Substack. And I write several things there. But I still write for Kayak Angler Magazine, Wired to Fish, and Bassmaster, and then whoever, freelance for whoever else is out there. And I don't try to do like stuff that you see a lot of like clickbait stuff out there. I'm not like that. I'm more of I want authenticity. Why did this happen? Why, what was the best thing about it? What was your experience like? And people like that, and then oops, I lost my page here. Hold on a second.
Oops.
Here it is. I'm back. So anyway, but what I want to write content about, or even if I do a video, because I don't do much because I try to live in the moment so much. Mine is just about the authenticity of the angler,
Yeah.
And people, I think, see that. And then I write like practical stuff about what happened. It's not like, I don't make, I just like so-and-so used this to catch his fish, and this is what he experienced, and people are loving it. And I try to make the article that way as well. I don't have like this. It's like, it might be this, there might be this in the next part, and let this guy really give his thoughts on it. And some guys don't, some guys do. So that's why the articles have a uniqueness about them when they're published. And I have another one coming out hopefully into this week from the Toledo Bend Bassmaster this year, and also write for Kayak Adventure Series for Drew Gregory.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And those are really fun to write because of the adventures that those guys have. So there you go. That's how it happened.
And I gotta say, I mean, as much as I love, the KBF and the Bassmaster, I go do those because for me, it's a way to show that, if you can, show up and try, you might experience something that you never, who knows, like a guy like Josh Shrenko, runs a smallmouth place here, stuff here in Indiana, goes out to the Susquehanna and wins a blue trophy. I mean, normally, normally you see, like your traveling pros that are generally up in the, the big names that we all know that are there constantly. And then it goes to show that, I'm not going to say that Josh is an average Joe smallmouth fisherman because he's one of the best that I know, but he's not a guy who does that, he's not a Christine or, Drew or Russ who travels the country constantly. He just threw it out there one time and bang.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like one of those things. It's like the American dream. You might go to a fishery one time and have the best day of your life. And the next thing you know, you're a Bassmaster. I mean, and that's the cool thing about it. Me, I'm trying to crack the top 100 half the time because everybody's got to have goals, But the Kayak Adventure Series, you talk about something that's new and completely just amazing. I mean, I hated missing the last couple. I was I was supposed to be at the one up north before all this went down, but it's like I told Drew, I was like, dude, you're really onto something here.
Yeah.
I said, give it a couple years because it's a competition, but it's not, it's a reason to take a vacation and go to some place you might not otherwise go, but it is just the most fun, fantastic, way to get out there and just, fish a lake, fish a river, fish one day, fish another. But I mean, just an incredible concept, and I love what he's done with that.
And for those that haven't done one, man, if it gets nearby you, you got to try. I did 2 this year, the one in Texas. But the one in Minnesota was beyond epic. And again, let's bring Josh Shrenko's name up. You know, he did a seminar there. And if we would have listened, I took copious notes at that deal. And if we listened to everything he said, everybody's going to have success in what they were doing. And he backed up everything that he said by not only catching him, but he won the tournament
as
well. And it was unbelievable how everything correlated over to that, you know. And but what I like is it was a hot, I mean, really good quality competition, but at the same time it was like a laid back atmosphere, you know. And you had flexibility in where you would fish. You could fish a lake, you could fish a river, and I chose the river, and it was beyond adventurous, you know. And I met some new guys there, some really cool guys, and then they like 3 of them invited me to go on a float for the first night, and I did like this, I don't know, 10 or 12 mile float with them, and caught my biggest one doing that. And then the theater thing at the end where you're in a theater and he's giving out the awards, and you're engaged the whole time. But Drew is a master at that kind of thing. And what he's provided there for us is kayak fishing. It really is. And you, like I said, there were all kinds of kayaks. I mean, I think the guy that got second was a paddler.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Michael Thompson.
Yeah.
And he's about my age, and he tore it up there catching big ones, but he knows that river pretty well. And then afterwards I stayed and I went fishing with Elvis Lee, and him and his kid, they took me out, and my gosh. Here we were just a few miles, not even that, right near Minneapolis, and we're catching giant smallies. There's nobody else in sight.
Yeah.
You know, and we're on the Mississippi River. You know?
I had talked to Elvis so much before my heart attack, because I was supposed to fish the team event with his youngest son, because he had already teamed up with Eric Schreibner, who's another hammer up there. Mm-hmm. But it's like I was so ready. I had my Ned rod already, had my Nikos ready. But again, you know, I know they'll be coming around and going back up into places like that again. But
speaking of Nico,
there it is. So you know,
we gotta plug these heads, man. These things.
Oh
work.
Yeah, go ahead and tell everybody, you know, kind of how you, because to be honest, after the Texas event, I had a full box of Marty Hughes special, because he was giving us a little seminar the night before we left, and then ended up driving off and leaving his whole Nico box there. So
yes, I did.
I'm glad I was able to see you again to get you back your gear.
There you go. There's what the little one looks like. It's a 1/16 in gold. This came about from I've been with Bass Pros for 10 years, working with them, and there was a weatherman named Jim Flowers that worked there, and he came up to me one day. He goes, "Marty, hey, I got something for you," and he goes, "You got to try this." And he showed me the Nico rig, and this is several years ago, and so I used it and tried it, and I was winning either top 3 winning, whatever with it. Nobody else was using it around here, and it was just something different. Maybe, I don't know, but it was just flat out catching fish. It still is, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I kind of tweaked it and kept tweaking it and doing different things, and now we actually have it. You probably can't, now you can see it. There's a sleeve on there. We have the Snyder sleeve named after Russ Snyder's. He's the one that helped me devise this idea. And what we have is, I'm sorry, I just lost you again. Hold on a second.
You're good.
Where are we at here? Hold on, guys. I'm so sorry. Where did it go? I don't see my screen.
Okay. Well, you still got a browser open and we can see
I
and hear you, so
you're
still good.
Oh, there we are. Okay, there we are. Anyway, so
you had to find a specific material to work with the Z-Man baits, didn't you?
So I reached out to several manufacturers until I found one that had the right composition that would not melt this plastic.
Yeah, because anything else gets in contact.
Right. So I ordered some samples, and it worked. And so now I order it in bulk, and then we sell those little packages, the Snyder sleeve, and it literally, like the other day I caught 2 days worth of bass, I don't know, 40, 50 bass, with
That
one
reminds
sleeve
me,
and
we
one.
got to talk about your project
Oh yeah.
2025.
Yeah, you bet. And then with one worm, so it's very durable. The heads, I came up with that mold and designed it, and we can manufacture about 1,500 an hour. Right now I'm behind painting because I got stores that want them,
Yeah.
and we actually got them in Shields locally too, and in Colorado. But
So for
but
anybody who's wanting your Nico heads that are,
mhm,
because you paint them in various colors,
yeah.
what's the easiest way to get a hold of you? Through your Facebook page or?
Actually, there's a lot of ways. Facebook or KayakJak.com. It's KYAKJAK.com. But
Okay,
on there's a link to the store. But it's Kayak Jack. If you type in on Google Kayak Jack Outdoors,
you're gonna
it
find
comes
it.
up. You
Yeah.
can order from there. We try to get them out pretty quick if we can. Painting them, I can paint about 250 an hour, and I am going to tell you guys right now, I'm going to give you the juice, man. Gold with molten craw, or dragonfly, which is a light blue with a green pumpkin. The light blue with the green pumpkin is just tearing it up right now.
Wow.
And so that from there, now we can talk about the numbers of bass you can catch with it.
Jeez. So tell them how you got into this whole year thing.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't think I've caught that many. You catch what in a year? What I might catch in 5 years. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not retired yet. So
Well, the other day, if you go to my Facebook feed under Marty Hughes, you can actually see where a giant bass actually jumped into the net trying to get that Nico.
hmm,
Because I caught like a bass, I don't know, 12 inches or so. I went down to dip it the other day, and then I got it, and then it got heavy, and I'm like, what in the world? I started lifting it, and it's splashing everywhere. Well, a 4.5-pound bass had followed it in there, and I caught that bass with it. And I wish that I had a video camera going that day, but
oh,
I didn't. But I caught a bass without hooking it, and
so
I
it
think
followed
he's like,
that other fish into your net.
yeah. But
That's
I think
incredible.
either he's trying to eat that fish or he wanted that Nico worse than that little fish did.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Because
Everybody wants that Nico.
we've seen bigger bass try to take baits away from other
Oh
fish. I
yeah,
mean,
absolutely. So the goal. So the goal started with my kids. My best friend, who's the basketball coach here where I live, he would come out doing my basketball camps back in the day, and he came to our athletic banquet and did a motivational talk, and he talked about audacious or outrageous goals. When we went home that night, my two boys, they said, Dad, we want to make a goal. I said, okay, let's make some goals. Outrageous, though. They got to be outrageous. So CJ said, Dad, I want to make 75,000 shots this summer. He's a fifth grader. I'm going to make 75,000 shots for basketball. My older son, Christian, I want to run 450 miles for cross country for next fall, my senior year. Okay. Well, what are you going to do, Dad? I said, well, I think I'm going to catch the year and fish, but I'm not going to get started until the end of May here. So, we'll see what happens. So CJ makes his 75,000 shots. And I got to tell a quick side story on that. Not only did he do that, but he wins the state super shooters the next winter in the 6th grade in a school clear across the state where we would end up moving to, and he would end up winning 2 state championships at that school.
oh
What are the
wow.
odds of that?
Yeah.
And going 29-0 his senior year. The other one, senior year, made it state cross country 4th year in a row, achieved his goal. Dad, on the other hand, failed miserably. And I did not reach my goal of catching the year and fish. Now, I do have a chart I just put up on Facebook here the other day. I can't remember the number that I got, but year 2, I also didn't get it. So I kept resetting. I go, I'm going to get that goal. And so the year 3, I got it. Well, now I've gotten it, I think 11 out of 14 years, but the last 3 years have been bass only because it got too easy to get, the species. So I said, okay, I'm going to do a bass one. And then Dwayne Wally goes, he said, hey, let's make this a national deal, man, on Tourney X. I said, okay. So we made it free, and we had 200 and almost 50 guys sign up for it.
Wow.
And the object is to catch the year-end bass. No minimum on length. You just try to catch them. You got to submit them and take all that stuff. I'm gonna tell you, that is the hardest thing in the world to do, man. It is so hard.
I
And
couldn't imagine.
but I made it. I made it, but nobody else made it that first year. Well, then the next year we charged $5, skin in the game with it. And oh, here's the other thing is Brandon from Kayak Cushion got on board. And he says, hey, anybody that makes it, I'll give them a kayak cushion, custom made for that deal. So I won a kayak cushion in 2023. And then last year in 2024, I made it again on like in December. It was cold.
Oh, I remember the pictures.
I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna get this. I was even gonna make a trip to Louisiana to try to get my 2025 bass, but I did get it locally, and it was really cold. And I made it again, but nobody else made it again. So Brandon only gave away one kayak cushion for each one. This year we have 100 and something people. It's $5 still, and I made it already. I made it in September.
Yep.
And on the last day of September. And then there's another guy, Clayton Westgate out of Kansas, who's close. I think he needs like 300. And so he will be the only other person to have done it. But guys, it is a challenge. And some guys have made fun like, man, you're wasting a lot of time measuring. You know what, though? I can measure a fish. I can catch a fish, measure it, and get it back in the water in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
CPR. And that's helped me in tournaments, overall. With the practice.
Oh yeah, I mean, you think about the time and speed. You've got it down to muscle reflex now.
and I have arthritis in my thumb so bad. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But no, it's a great challenge, and I'm working on a species one for next year. I can't disclose that yet, but we're working on something for that. But the idea behind it is to inspire people to set a goal. It doesn't matter if it's fishing or whatever, but set a high goal for yourself. And go chase it, and I had other goals in my life besides that, but the fishing one has helped inspire a lot of people to get outside, maybe inspire them to do something in their career or with their kids or whatever. Like we have a gal here in town, or outside of town. Her goal is to run a half marathon in every state. That's an outrageous goal. And she's got 38 states done, stuff. And one of my goals is like to catch a bass in every state, except, well, of course, Alaska, I guess. But but they are in Hawaii.
Yeah, my son was stationed up there, and he learned there's no bass.
There's no bass. Yeah,
they're in every other state.
Now, maybe they got a Bass Pros with a tank, because I have caught a fish in a Bass Pro tank, but without a hook. So anyway, that's where that goal came from, JT, and it's just mainly to inspire, and I just love doing it. I love catching fish, and this year I want to break my record. I think 2380 something is the record for the most bass in a year, and there may be guys that have caught more than that, but you know what, you got to record it for it to count. So
well, and a lot of people don't realize too, you live up north. It's not like you're in Florida or Texas. You're up where it gets cold. So
I didn't start till March. I think there were guys that had 3,000 inches on me before I even started this year. But I did go to Texas, I think, in March. I go because I hit a couple tournaments down south, but it's not. Believe me, guys, in March here, March 14th or 15th is our ice out date usually.
Yeah.
Here, so and it's going to get cold quick here again because
it don't take long.
It's coming. So anyway, there's a story on that. There's a story on that.
So let's talk a little bit about two of your sponsors, Bass Pro Shops, and you also fish out of a Hobie these days. What did you think when you heard the news about Hobie coming back to the U.S. and working, with somebody as major as Bass Pro? Now, I know you're, if you've got stuff that you can't talk about or whatever, I get that too, because there's, I fished with Old Town for a year, and then I decided I still love Old Town, but I want to fish in all the kayaks. But being a guy who's affiliated with, one of the biggest fishing shops in the country, as historic as Bass Pro is, and then Hobie, who arguably, is been one of the top fishing kayaks for ages, and did kayak tournaments and the whole. I never got to fish a Hobie BOS, but I wasn't kind of into it then. But what did you think when you heard about Hobie coming back and maybe, changing ownership and, I don't know what you know or anything yet, but kind of talk about it a little bit.
Well, ironically, I grew up a few years in Oceanside, California, where Hobie was started
Oh,
by
okay.
Hobie himself. And they had sailboats, of course, at first, and, and surfboards and things like that. But
Hmm.
so that was kind of cool to that way. But I was one who a few years ago said I would never pedal a kayak. I would never, then I said I'd never put a motor on a kayak, and I would paddle it. And I had a Jackson Kilroy. I still have it. And I've had several besides that. But when I went on board with Bass Pros, many years ago, they gave me an Ascend kayak. Of course, my first contract had a Ranger boat on, and I had to tell them, "Is this true?" And oh no, that's a mistake. So I got the Ascend kayak, and they said it didn't matter what kayak, but I just needed to help promote their products and so forth. So
Right.
that's what I do. But and then with Hobie, there's been opportunities to join up with their team, but I declined for the fact of I wanted to be able to, when I guide and when I'm promoting kayak fishing, I wanted to have some flexibility in what people could use,
Yep.
because not everybody's going to be able to afford that high-end kayak,
Exactly.
and
Yep.
I wanted to be able to get them in kayaks, and I didn't feel like it would be fair to anybody for me to do that. So with now though, and I knew about this acquisition before it became public, and I read some of the stuff on social media, and I had to keep my mouth shut
Yep.
because I kind of knew it was going to happen. But there's been some positive and negative comments made about it, but
Hmm.
I wonder how many of those comments are made by people that don't even own a Hobie.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
yeah.
so I own one, and I know that, yeah, it's difficult to get parts, but I can tell you this, every dealer I've gone to, which I've worked with Eco Fishing Shop, I've worked with Select Sail, even after they sold it to Brady Stores, who's in Kearney now, and who else? And yeah, those three I've worked with. But you know what? They would take the part off another kayak and help me out and get me back on the water just for the
Yep.
sake of that. That's how dedicated they were to it. Yes, getting parts is difficult, and I think with this change, I think that might change. People are making assumptions about what are they going to do with the drive, and is it going to, all the, you know what, guys, if you're kayak fishing and you have one, you're good.
Yeah.
If it gets
Exactly.
better, it gets better. We don't know.
Yeah.
But I am going to say, yeah, I'm a Hobie Outback owner. I have two of them, and I did own a PA-14 for a year and never put it in the water because I thought
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I
Wow.
needed, but I
Yeah.
didn't need it, and it's what I wanted, and so I resold it and never really used it because it was just too big for me.
Yeah.
But the Outback is my Swiss Army knife. I can get anywhere with it. I can pedal it, paddle it, motor it. You can even sail it. And it's just a very versatile kayak, and it's super stable as well.
It's
So
funny you say that because in today's
mhm,
age,
yeah,
where everybody's talking about big, 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 big,
yeah, yeah,
I ran into the same thing with the XTR.
yeah,
I had it and I was like, man,
yeah,
this thing's awesome. It's huge. It's a boat. It's too big. It was
yeah,
too much for me to take off
yeah,
my trailer and put in my garage all the time.
yeah,
So I ended up selling that to a friend and stuck with my PWR,
yeah,
which, like in the same with you, it's a little more for take it in the lakes, take it in the rivers, take it in
yeah,
the creeks if I need. But I'm like you, I had to go through going up to kind of come back down
yeah,
and simplify things, So I know
yeah.
exactly what you mean.
I think everybody goes through that cycle too, that
Yeah.
they think that it's not what you want, it's what you need for
Yeah.
your type of fishing. And so for me, most of my fishing is maneuvering, getting in the tight spots, getting over the top of vegetation
Yep.
effectively. Now, I do own a Hobie Lynx as well, and I'm going to tell you right now, for a guy my age, that 42 pounds is a lifesaver, man. I
Yeah.
can unload it and load it quickly, and pond hop, take a couple rods, and
Yep.
so I use that as well. And I do have a Crescent Shoaly or for the river.
Yep.
I just haven't been this year. I didn't take it to the Mississippi. I took my Outback, and the Outback performed pretty well.
Yep.
But I would just say this, that I think it's great. In fact, I just wrote my store today about, is it going to be great this year? I can bring my Hobie Outback in the Bass Pro Store and deck it out and let people see it while I'm giving a seminar there. That'll be
Yeah,
kind of
that'd be really
cool, you
cool.
know?
Oh yeah.
And the other thing is, you know, it'll help them with the sales of their kayaks, you
Yeah.
know, when they're doing that. So, I think it's a good thing overall. I think having the stuff manufactured here, I don't know if it will or not. Maybe it will be overseas, but I don't see them jumping into something and making something new without having the extra parts available. I think they're,
Yeah.
you know, they're intelligent in that way. I don't know what happened with Hobie in the past. I can't address that at all, and I'm not going to.
No, I don't blame you.
You just move forward. You rebrand and you move forward.
Yep.
You know,
Nope,
and so that's all we
I
can
think it's
do.
a good thing because if they can, especially moving it to the middle of the country, you're back, because I know a lot of people who, they want to buy a USA, made,
Yeah.
and we know not all parts and pieces come from within the country. It's just part
Mhm.
of it. But,
Mhm.
if you're, an American brand again, then there's a lot of people that look forward to that and they want to support that too, whether it's,
Yeah.
fishing gear or, kayaks, cars, trucks, whatever, you
Yeah.
know, the companies are doing the best they can and they got to source parts where they can too. But,
Yeah.
you bring it back and make Hobie in the USA again. I'm sure a lot of people really dig that too. So
Yeah.
as popular of a kayak that is, I mean, it's like when you look at their 360 drive and, I've always been like an old town kind of guy. That's what I
Mhm.
farted, that's what I found. And when I started, when I wanted to kind of move up from my little lifetime, yaks and all that.
Mhm.
And everybody finds their way in different, boats. But a lot of people go to Bass Pro Shops and shop.
Yeah.
And if Hobie is sitting in there, that's going to be in front of a whole bunch of different eyes than even just
Mhm.
those that are in just in kayak shops.
Mhm.
Because unless you're a kayak angler, you don't even know about kayak shops,
I got a
So
funny story on this. I got a
but
funny story. So we're in Ogallala, Nebraska. Now, for those of you on here that know Nebraska, Ogallala is outstate. Ogallala is 5 hours from Lincoln, Nebraska to the west. All right. It is a major tourism place, though, for Coloradoans to come on the beach. All right. So we're out there and I'm with the Colorado Kayak Bassmasters, and they're having one of their events. And I like to go to like Kansas, Missouri, and Colorado and tinker with some of those other trails. So I'm
yep.
fishing this event at McConaughey, and we all go out to eat at this restaurant. It's a really cool place on the north side of the lake, and we're sitting there, and this guy comes in. Now, if you know Western Nebraska, it's mainly farming and ranching. All right. Well, a rancher comes in. He's got his cowboy hat on, plaid shirt, cowboy pants, or jeans and cowboy boots, and he stops and he goes, "Hey, how many of you own a Hobie kayak?" And because the reason why he said that is because out in the parking lot there were several trucks with Hobies on them. Right. He goes, "How many of you own it?" And like we're like, okay, whose truck did he hit? So anyway, he goes, so about 10 hands go up, and he goes, "Any of you know how I can get parts from my 5 Hobies I own on my ranch?" And he owns 5 Hobie kayaks, and he's on a ranch in western Nebraska and uses them on the river and ponds there locally,
Oh
but he
wow,
couldn't get
okay.
parts. So we told him about Brady at Select Sale and said, "You can get some parts there." But isn't that something? You're in like a
Never
remote area.
expected. Yeah.
No. And a guy has 5 Hobies on a ranch in western Nebraska. Who would have thought?
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
That was a good one. So anyway,
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I wish them. I don't know that I've ever been in a Hobie. I mean, I've seen all the cool. You watch enough YouTube, you see folks like Christine and others.
mhm,
And all the folks that really capture a lot of content when they're fishing.
mhm, mhm,
I understand why, because it's like you can motor to a spot and
mhm,
then use that drive to kind of kick your way around, and even the way they design the fins and whatnot for
mhm,
speed. Because I've even seen it in my local derbs here before we all kind of got into the motor thing. People take off, and I thought my little pedal drive was pretty cool, and then I see somebody and a Hobie going,
Yeah,
they
you
were
could
like
hit.
they were motorized before there were motors,
Yeah, I could those. This is a true story, man. At Possum Kingdom, I'd found a pretty good spot down there, and everybody around me had motors, and I was like, oh, and no, there's been times too where I've been the only motor with 10 or 12 people at a ramp, and I had to try to out out well out propel them to
yeah.
and I was going to the spot. We took off, and there was this guy to my right, and I was kind of concerned he was going to go to that spot too. But I was ahead of all these guys with motors propelling Outback with my pedals. I had no motor, and we're going along. He's on my right. He goes, "Where are you headed?" And I go, right over there at that point. He goes, "Okay, I'm headed this way." I go, "Oh, great." He goes, "Oh, by the way," he goes, "you're going about 5.5 miles per hour." And with no motor. And I said, "That's right, because I want to get there first." And so I
A
did.
lot of guys with the autopilots and the bow mounts are going a lot slower.
Yeah. And so I got there, and I got there first, and I ended up doing pretty good in that tournament, third, I think, in that Bassmaster. But in the next day I had to do it again, And so you can get those things going pretty fast. And what I do with my Outback is I actually pedal with the motor on,
Yeah.
and get even faster.
Oh yeah, get a little more speed
To do that with. But I've only got a what do you call it, the 403 on it, Torpedo 403 on that one. But anyway, yeah, they're a fast kayak. But I will tell you that to me the fastest hole out there is the Jackson Cuda Kilroy hole.
Okay.
That hole is so fast, because I could out paddle a pedal kayak with that Jackson Kilroy. Did that at Lake Fork.
Wow.
And I'm not saying I'm, like world, this guy that can do. I'm just saying that I think that the kayak itself can perform better, with the right technique of what you're doing. So,
yeah,
anyway.
I think the guy that used to run that company was pretty good at designing stuff.
Oh yeah, he made his own. He made his own surfboards. He carved them
That
as a
wouldn't
kid.
surprise me.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first met Eric at a KBFNC, and he was in his red jumpsuit, and I'm like, "Who in the world?"
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
you're talking about Eric. Oh, yeah. I was talking about Hobie.
Oh, okay,
Eric too. Yeah, Eric too. Same thing. I mean, unreal. Yeah. But remember, those jumpsuits, that was a very popular thing back in the day, even with the elites.
Yeah.
They all wore them.
I've still got, my brother and I used to fish bass tournaments back way before we got into kayak fishing, but I found one of ours. It was like an old Nitro, and it was the old button-up collar.
Yeah.
Sponsors, and and I was like, holy shoot, I can't believe I still have this. And then I found like one of my Shimano Corrados that was made in like probably 90 or 91. But that's actually up here on the wall, because some of those I don't even fish with anymore. But oh, I got one for you that I dug up.
Okay.
I'll take you back a few years, and I showed the audience this last.
Oh boy, yeah.
I started with one of these on like a pistol grip, Shakespeare, but I've found this, and I'm like, I'm gonna go catch a fish on this next spring. So we'll see. We'll see. The good old Johnson reels, but that's what my grandpa started us on. And people always ask, it's like, why don't you use like left-handed reels since you're right? I said, the reels that we grew up with, you couldn't switch the handles. This is how it came. This is how we learned.
And that's something, JT, too. People make fun of me when they look at when I'm casting, and if you look in any video of me, I have the spinning reel upside down as I cast, even to this day. And then I flip it down, because when I was a kid, you could not flip the handles.
Yeah.
And so I had this big giant saltwater reel I was fishing for bass with, and I had to tip it. I had to fish with it upside down, because it was the only one I had, until they came out.
With the modern spinning reels and all that, I still fish it in my left hand. So I'll cast it, and while it's in the air, I'll be switching hands, closing the bail and starting a reel.
Wow.
It's just how we learned, and I'm not going to change it now. That's for sure.
Yeah, you bet. I don't know if we could. Motor memories is ingrained too much into us.
Nope, I'm too good. All right, good sir. I've kept you about an hour. I appreciate you jumping on. I've been so wanting to get you on and introduce you to the Everything Kayak Fishing podcast on Spotify and Apple and all those places, and of course here on YouTube. But I love getting people come on that I haven't had on before yet to talk about the sport that we know and love, and build that community up too. So if any of you guys manage to show up at a Bassmaster or a Kayak Adventure Series or a KBF event and you see Marty up there, walk up and talk to him, because that's exactly what I do every time I go someplace.
I've always got Nico's in my pocket, so
yes, he does.
Ask my wife. She does her laundry.
Find them all in the laundry.
Would you please clean your pockets out before you?
It's like, come on, help me out.
If anybody ever needs anything, information or whatever, like I said, I have that KayakJak's fishing intel on Substack, the Facebook page, Instagram, it's under KayakJak too, and then YouTube, it's KYAKJAK as well. I don't do a whole lot, but there's some stuff on there, mostly, and anything with Nico, you can find stuff on there. If you're needing something, you want to try something, let me know. Product wise, whatever too, I can help out. But the main thing is that we help mainly the kids, man, to get started in this thing and going right and stuff. And the other thing is, like I said before, please just be safe, wear your PFD, tell people where you're going, when you're going to come back, have a float plan, things like that, because there's just so many things we've seen happen, especially lately. And we want to help prevent that as much as we can. In fact, my wife was kind of concerned with me going out in cold water all the time, and I had a semi-dry suit, but I got the dry suit now.
There you go.
For the colder water in November and in March, to help with that. So
and Jeff Little's got a lot of great videos for content like that. Because everybody learns in different ways from different people. It's like I was talking to Marty, like a year ago about what's a good rod and reel combo for a Nico, and something that I had really planned on focused on a lot this year too. But always reach out and ask. But again, it's like we did the same thing. The Fishing with Gramps family here sent in a ton of different baits. We did a collection for our local high school. I won't say local. We did a bait raising for a small town fishing team that had like 4 kids on it. The town I live in, where I went to high school, 2,500 kids. Shoals, like 300, 350. That's where my mom and dad went. So we did the same thing. We went out, bought them jerseys, sent them a bunch of rods, reels, baits, basically set them up with everything they could think they need. And I'd never seen teenagers cry, but it was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing is there's a couple things here. We run a youth program here, and it's unique, it's unique in its own way. It's called the Monday Night League. Kids can team up. They can team up with an adult, each other, but adults can't team up together.
Yeah, okay.
And we have an AOY, the whole works. It's awesome, man. They just love it. And then you can go kayak, boat, or bank. But to raise money for all this stuff that we do, I have an expo at the end of January, at the beginning of February. It's January 31st this year. We're going to have the first ever, I believe this is the first ever, because I haven't heard of one yet, kayak show, like a car show.
Oh, wow.
It's a kayak show. And we're going to have, people vote on it, like the Yak-Offs. They're going to.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay.
And it's right here in Auburn. This will be our 3rd year running it. We have seminars, chili cook-off, local vendors, lure makers, all kinds of stuff. And it's like $2 to get in. And then, $25 for a table. I don't care where you're from in the country. We've had Gene Campbell came all the way from Colorado, had a booth, and said it really helped him.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Jonathan Dominguez comes up from Eco Fishing Shop. That's a 4.5-hour drive.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of guys here, and the seminars are incredible. So anyway, that's something that you can look into. The other thing is, we do run a Catch All You Can series in the fall. We got 2 coming up, and we do have a side pot for best 5 and a micro bag and all that too.
That's cool.
We're giving away some prizes there. We want to thank especially Hoodoo and Yak Attack for that, and Little Miami Outfitters. Brandon's always done well for me, get me stuff I need. So
that's cool.
Anyway, there's my plugs. There's a lot going on, as you know, JT. So
yes, sir. Always. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm gonna let you get back to your time.
All right.
And as I wrap up every time, now that we're back, we're live, we're alive to be alive. As always, Get outside when you can and make some memories, one cast at a time.